But let's start. We're rolling. Ross
We on.
Neal, thank you so much for joining us. Dice Monday podcast.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Jamie Monk, who I know will be listening to for the connection.
I'm sure he will. He listens to everything I do.
He's stalking you.
He pretends to, but he doesn't actually. He just says it's all great. Well done. Yeah.
So, Ross, are you excited for the Six Nations coming up?
I am. Actually, ever since I used to be a professional rugby player.
Yes.
I assume none of your listeners will have ever heard of me. So I used to play rugby for about 9 years. But since retiring, I don't really watch much rugby other than Six Nations, Autumn Internationals, big games. So yeah, I'm excited.
I think England might have it this year.
I think they will as well.
They've got the right players like Henry Pollock to get under the skin of these other teams. Scotland not really performing. Ireland in a bit of trouble. France your only threat.
Yeah, and France are a bit. I don't think you really know what's coming. I think is Penno not involved this time around or something?
I don't know actually.
But either way, it seems like everyone is in a state of flux other than England at the moment. So, I mean, let's not get carried away. But maybe it's time to come. Yeah,
100%. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit of background, quickly, brief, who you are, where you've come from.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up just outside of London, a little town called Beaconsfield.
Nice.
I don't know if you've ever been,
Yeah.
but it's sort of west of London, just outside the M25. Grew up there, started playing rugby at the age of 7, and at 18 turned professional, went to London Irish Academy. I was a very late bloomer as well, so I was only in any sort of academy setup in my final year at school, and did 3 years there in London Irish Senior Academy, then got released, went to London Scottish for 1 year, then went up to Wasps for 2 seasons, which was unbelievable because they were my hometown club. I used to play in High Wycombe, which is near Beaconsfield. Then had a great period of playing there, like a sort of 8 to 10 game purple patch where I had the time of my life playing Premiership, Champions Cup, got to play sort of Toulouse away, big games in the Premiership, was fantastic.
Nice.
Then I had an injury and then struggled to get back into the team. When I did play, didn't really play that well. And
what was
kind
the
of
injury?
It's a really funny one actually. It was a giant hematoma on my hip. So hematoma, fancy word for a big bruise.
Right.
And I was playing. There was a sequence of games I think where every game was playing in front of more people than the game before, and it was like living the dream. And it was Toulouse away in front of I think maybe 20,000 or whatever they have there. DuPont, Colby playing, and it was like, oh
nice.
My goodness. There's a funny clip of Colby jumping over a ruck, and I'm at guard, whether your fans know what guard is, but I go to smash him, and I just remember eating the grass, and I was like, where is he? And you watch the clip, and someone clipped it up and put it on Twitter, and they just wrote like, another Wasp player falls foul to Ches and Colby because it was a back-to-back and he'd been dusting us the entire time.
What a player.
But he jumped over the ruck and I went to wallop him, and as he lands, he just went and I just didn't even see him and he made a little break, and I remember that. But that was great. Then the next week it was like a Christmas cracker in front of 32,000, and then in that game I spanked my hip and couldn't move it for like 6 weeks at all. And then when I came back, I think I had 1 game, played really badly, and then didn't really get back in after that because I was kind of a squad player my whole career. And then went to America, went to Seattle for 6 months.
Okay.
Then COVID hit, came back, played for London Irish again,
Seattle,
Saracens for a couple of months, and then Seattle, and then finished, retired, had a few concussions and didn't want to get to the point where I had to retire. So
I was going to say, 26 you retired.
Yeah.
Young age to lose your sort of rugby identity. What was the plan?
There was no formal plan. And when I actually retired, I didn't know I would. So when I decided to retire, I was deciding. So as I said, I did 6 months in Seattle, then would come back and play in the Premiership.
Yeah.
I had a big concussion where essentially what happened is I went up for a high ball. As I was coming down for it in Seattle, the guy who was competing's shoulder went into my jaw and sort of went, and I was on the floor. And I was on the floor for like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, and then got up and was, that was a big hit. And I watched it back and I was down for about a minute or so.
Wow.
I didn't realise. Got up and was looking around. I was like, I don't recognise this place at all.
Wow.
I was looking around, no idea. Got a bit confused. Physio took me off the pitch, and then I couldn't remember like 6 months of my life at all. So this
6 months?
No idea. Didn't know why I was in Seattle. Thought I was on loan from Wasps. No idea.
That's
Didn't know if I was in a
crazy.
relationship or not. Turns out I was actually on a break with my girlfriend, and I couldn't remember why. So my last memory was we're together, and now I don't know why. So it was really confusing. Had to
Yeah.
like speak to my one of my friends came up, and I said, "So am I single or am I in a relationship?" He went, "It's kind of complicated, really. I mean, I can't really answer that
Yeah.
quickly." But anyway, had the concussion. It kind of was very hard for me to come back from in terms of I'd step onto the pitch and just go foggy. So I didn't
Wow.
really know what was going on. Played a little bit longer and then didn't want to get to the point where I had to retire. So decided to retire.
Did the doctors not say, listen, you're in trouble here? Or
No, they kind of said, if you get another few big ones, maybe think about it, but it's up to you. I hadn't had many before.
surely losing 6 months of memory is classed as a big one.
It comes back. Like
Right.
it
Oh, so it
starts
comes
filtering.
back. Right,
It
right,
wasn't
right.
like consistently gone, but you have a
Okay.
period of like, 24, 48 hours where you just have no idea. It's very
Right.
weird.
Right.
And then it kind of weirdly comes back. And they still got the sort of say. And then I just said to myself, if I get one more concussion, I'm going to retire because I don't want to get to the point where it's
you're
out of my
forced.
hands.
Yeah.
And then I was training and my teammate went to tackle someone at the same time and we swung round and his forehead went into my nose and it broke in 4 places. And I was like, my nose is big enough. I didn't need any more sort of stuff happening.
You don't
there.
look like
So-
Clacker Smith anytime soon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just thought, okay, we'll do 10 this season. And then took a little job at my brother's university for like 6 months, doing a little admin role, just to let my head calm down. And at that point, it started calming down. I went, yeah, retire, cooled up, done.
Was rugby your passion?
Yes, it was. Loved rugby from the age of 7. Always wanted to be a rugby player. That said, by the time I finished, I
You were
didn't.
done.
I think there's interestingly from a psychological point of view, when you do something because of intrinsic motivation, i.e., you love it, and then you start receiving extrinsic reward, salary, plaudits, whatever it is, over time, intrinsic motivation decreases. So
Interesting.
by the end of my career, that had definitely happened for me. I was telling myself sort of confirmation bias if I'm still enjoying this, but actually I was hating the pressure of it, always struggling for contracts. And I was like, I don't really get up going, here we go. And it's kind of sad, but
Yeah.
equally
Very
gotta
interesting. A lot of
listen to
people
that.
say don't make your hobby your job because of
Mm.
that exact reason. As soon as
Yeah.
you turn your side hustle, something that you enjoy, into a living expense, then it changes.
I think without a shadow of a doubt, there are some people who are very lucky and that doesn't happen to them, but I think they're probably mistaking a passion for purpose, i.e., your purpose is something that you will get up for come rain or shine. It doesn't matter if it's enjoyable. For example,
Right.
I enjoy playing paddle, but if you told me out to play in -2 and it was raining, I'd say, nah, I'm all right. I do it because it's enjoyable.
Right.
If it was my purpose to, save a species from going extinct, it wouldn't matter the weather and it wouldn't matter if I was enjoying it. I'd do it because it's my purpose.
So purpose over passion.
So I think if your job is your purpose, you're brilliant. If it's your passion, over time that will diminish. And
I love that
yeah.
because one of the things I've been struggling with, and I'm always pursuing people who are chasing their passion, but purpose might be the better word. Because
Yeah.
I always talk about, I'd love to wake up and go to work and have that purpose. And I look at people like doctors or police and these people know what they need to do with their day every day because what they do matters. And it's tough, your everyday person, your accountant, your financier, to wake up, there's not that purpose or passion. Your purpose to have a job, earn money, to look after your family, sure. But that's slightly different. Imagine, I'm on the hunt, because imagine waking up every day with a purpose in your eye. Like you say, no matter the weather.
Yeah, and there's definitely a bit of a purpose crisis when it comes to, the working world at the moment. And there's a great guy called Tony Shea, founder of Zappos. Not founder, actually. He was CEO of Zappos, but he was he sold 2 companies, one for 1.2 billion, one for 275 million. But he got obsessed with happiness. He actually died in a house fire, unfortunately, a few years back. But
Wow.
he had this idea: there was 4 things you need for a happy life. Like, one of them's controls. You need to feel you have autonomy over what you're doing in your life. The second one is progression. You need to be making strides forward, which is why you're stuck in a job with no promotion. You're going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah.
You need to be actually making, or at least perceived, progress. Then it was connection, the amount of positive social connections you have. But the 4th one's purpose, like something to go after. And the more you look at that, you go into organizations now, most of them struggle to have 2 of them. And ideally you want all 4.
Yeah.
So it's a very hard balance to strike.
I wanted to dive into your work because I think we could use it at our office. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, so during my career, I did a lot of kind of corporate training for my dad, who was in that field, did a lot of sport business and business sport work with rugby teams, Olympic teams, and businesses. And I did a little bit of that at the time. I kind of enjoyed it. Never thought I'd do it as a job, though. I
Right.
never thought I would go into it. And when I finished, I got asked by a sales team where I was doing that little 6 months of admin work to just talk about how sports teams reset for a new year because their sales team had a great year, but were a bit like, how do we get them going again? So, well, we have to do it every year in sport. So I put together a bit of a talk around that, enjoyed it, and then thought, I don't see myself doing 9 to 5. Maybe there's a business in this. And then started looking back at every single team I'd been in. I had 7 different teams and 13 different head coaches. So I got a fairly large, and being a squad player,
Experience.
I never had the luxury of, I'm probably going to play here. So I had to be really aware of how I was being coached, how to put myself out there, how to connect with other players that other players might not have needed to as much. So I looked back quite forensically, spoke to coaches, spoke to players. What were you trying to do there? How did it go? Maybe it didn't work, but it was the right thing, or vice versa. How do you build culture quickly in professional rugby? There's quite a lot of parity. So salary cap, facilities, playing style, players themselves, all kind of similar. So the big difference is that culture and that environment. So can you take that and move it into business? And that's what it started as, quite a simplistic sport to business, create a culture. Since then, it's developed quite a lot because there's some essential things that don't work in business do work in sport.
Right.
One of the main things that you've already slightly mentioned, within professional rugby, everyone there is of a very high level and have an inherent desire to be there and to succeed, which you do not have in most businesses.
Especially if they don't own the business.
Yeah.
If they own the business, then different.
Yeah. And some people might do it. On the whole, people are kind of at a settling point. They kind of turn up and they do their job, and that's that. In rugby, that's not the way it is. So I had to adapt the model. I was doing some work with some SDRs, a sales team on the South Coast in Bournemouth. It's my first job ever with the business. And I had this great program from professional sports, and I came to bring it in, and I realized very quickly all these guys want to do is sit there, hit the phones, and then go out for beers. They don't actually give 2 shits about my performance program. So I had to adapt it very quickly. So how do you create an environment, just no matter who's in it, that when they come into it, performance goes up? And that's where it started. I'm slightly autodidactic in the way that I learn. I've looked at courses out there and I don't like them.
You're going to have to explain that word.
Well, so it's quite a funny word because autodidactic means self-taught.
Right.
So I like to learn, go out and find the knowledge myself, because I did look at some different courses around there, and all of them seemed like they were just money-making schemes. So I spoke to my old man who's been in the business for ages, and he said, they really are a box tick.
Like motivational speakers that just come to speak without any
but also coaching courses and things like this. They're all doing the same sort of thing, and they're not really
like a salesy coach.
Everyone who teaches it has written a book.
Right.
Buy the book. You probably get all the value for £10, and you don't pay 10 grand for some course. But I wanted to create my own program. I wanted to learn about it myself and investigate and speak to people, start the podcast, have people on who are neuroscientists, things like this. So, so long answer there, but essentially what I do is go and work with management teams, sales teams, organizations on how to create high performance culture.
Yeah, so that's super interesting because obviously you've come from, like you say, the elite sportsman, and now you're dealing with the everyday workman. What is high performance for an everyday person?
It's a good question. What is performance is a very tough question in itself.
Yeah.
But essentially, I believe that high performance it's getting the most out of yourself on a consistent basis over time that helps you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. That's essentially what it is to you. So it may be different for you than it is to me, but essentially, are you getting the most out of yourself as much as possible?
But it's hard because there's no black and white metric for that.
No, and that's I know what a business will see high performance as, and that would be through revenue. That would be through things that are very easy to measure. So how we create that, I have to try and go through the back door, because the problem I have with my business as well is if I'm successful, everyone wants credit for it. So if I'm helping you create a culture and we get a scenario where we create the right mood, the right processes, the right training, and it works. Well, the managers want credit for it. The individual salespeople want credit for it. It was me who sold it. So you have to be quite willing to
give that,
release that.
Yeah.
But
because the manager is going to go to the shareholder and say, look what I've created.
exactly. And that's fine as long as they know what really happened. But at the end of the day, you can't, the job for me is not to be the one who did it. It's the one that enabled it to happen. So, but to your point, like, what does it look like? I think for me, a lot of it comes back to creating the right mood that leads to performance. So this is one of the key areas I look at, will be creating the right mood for the right decisions to be made. So if you take it to something really simple, my dad's a great example. If he came home from work and he was in an awful mood and I wanted to go to the shop for some sweets or something like that, I'm probably not going to ask him because he's probably going to say no.
Yeah.
But if he's in a fantastic mood, he's probably going to say yes. So I might ask him. So we can accept the fact that mood affects decision making. Now, when you go into a sales environment, if I said to them, what mood leads to you making lots of sales consistently, they'd be able to tell me really quickly. You want to be confident. You want to be happy. You want to be clear and focused. All those 4 things. And then you say, all right, how do we create that mood consistently? And they'll be like, well, we don't do anything specifically. And you're just leaving it to chance. So a lot of the work I do will be on how do we create the mood for that? Okay, so first thing when you come in, you want a really clear message, get everyone in, an energizer. What is the focus for today? How do we make this enjoyable? How do we get you into a mood where you are going to sell well? And we've seen it from books like The Hour Between Dog and Wolf. I don't know if you've read it, by John Coates. Fascinating, on Wall Street traders who they were measuring their testosterone levels during a trading day on a trading floor. And if they made a sale early or a risky trade and it went well, their testosterone spiked and their likelihood of making another one went through the roof.
Right.
So essentially that mood led to more risk-taking behavior and more confidence, and the way they spoke and everything came off.
Right.
So mood led to behavior. So a lot of what I'll do will be, how do we create a mood here where you don't drag yourself in after a commute, feeling tired, you've got more work, you've got a full inbox that drains your mood. How 100%. Are you going to bring high performance from that? So it's all around, that's one part of it. Performance under pressure is a massive part of it. So there's a massive skill gap in the world on ability to perform successfully under pressure. And that's a lot of what I'll do.
What does the everyday person that can't have the services you give take away from this podcast and go and put in their life to get that enhanced performance? So I'll give you an example. I'm that guy. Get on the tube, it's full, the Northern Line, you know the drill. It's terrible. You get to work, basement, UV lights, laptops, quiet. How do I create my own mood to get the performance that I want?
Yeah, so from an individual point of view, you will probably know yourself better than anyone. So if I sneakily switch this straight back on you, when are you best? What do you do?
I'm best after I exercise, 100%.
Exercise is a big one. So we get endorphins flowing, all those sort of things. So exercising early could be a good one for you straight away. Music, probably a big one. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people use music. The people you're around. So, for example, I've done a bit of work with supermarkets. Creating a culture at supermarkets is very hard. As an example here, so they have to do a lot of work before you even get there, stacking shelves, etc. Before I did a little bit of work with the supermarket, I went to a load of random supermarkets and started speaking to people on the floor, strangely, but was like, what makes a good shift for you? And my girlfriend used to work at Waitrose as well, so it was like, what makes it good? It's like, well, when I'm working with people I like, there's a really simple one. How do we create little corners where people look forward to coming in to see the people they're with? Okay, so we can start making connections there. Okay, Roscoe likes working this. Let's see if we can get a project there so they can vibe off each other a little bit. That might be one. Exercising might be another. The music you have, the way the manager interacts with you. What sort of relationship are they creating? Are they getting the right level of challenge and support where you feel they really care about me, but also they're going to drive me and expect a lot of me? So there's probably, I reckon, about 18 different levers that we can use to get your mood in the right spot consistently.
Okay. So mood is pretty much the biggest driver for performance.
Well, this is one where I think people will disagree and they go, mood's irrelevant. That comes and goes. It's discipline you need.
Interesting.
And that's great. But, you read any of the classics like Atomic Habits, stuff like this, you need to create an environment where you don't have to constantly swim upstream.
Yeah, you don't want to fight against the habit that you're breaking. You don't want it to be there in front of you. Like when I have chocolate in the cupboard, it doesn't last the day.
Exactly. So
but if I don't buy the chocolate, I won't eat it.
Yeah. Or you're just trying to basically create a mood as often as you can. So my job when I go and work with managers is teaching them how to create an environment that consistently will lead to the behaviors you want to. You can't control what happens when people are at home. So when they're at home, that's their own lives. You're not interfering there. But once they walk through that door, is everything geared to putting them in the right mood to make the right decisions you want? It's because mood leads to decision making leads to behavior leads to outcome. So connect the two, and you way better off. Yeah.
You mentioned the word discipline, which is obviously used quite a lot. Is discipline that important for human performance? Do you believe that this whole, because, with social media and everything that we have these days, you can scroll through 3 reels and they all say discipline is key, discipline is key, wake up at 5:30 every day, have this tea every morning. Is it as important as it's sort of shown?
I think discipline, it just speeds things up, doesn't it? I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think there are other skills that can be more important, and I think performance under pressure is one of them.
Right.
I've seen people that aren't very disciplined that can rock up and just deliver.
Yeah.
And those skills go a lot further in terms of perception and progress. But discipline is just one that is very, very easy to control.
Right.
So I think that's why it gets a lot of attention. It's not hard to, it's not complicated to be disciplined.
Right.
But it's one of those things that's simple but not easy. So,
because what I've found, there was another question I wanted to ask you there in what you said, but quickly on discipline. What I found now, as I've been more consistent in my life, so say 4 years ago, I was living for the weekend, I wasn't consistent, I wasn't disciplined. Now that I've started to be more disciplined and exercise, I've come full circle, gone through the first 2 years. Now I don't have to be as disciplined because I'm consistent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like habit creation, isn't it? It's like once you have created the habit, the ease of which and the mental blocks become slightly less. Don't they? So you don't have to be quite disciplined.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting. I don't think I wouldn't describe myself as hugely disciplined, but I'm not sure how much I'd enjoy my life if I was unbelievably disciplined. That makes sense. Like what's the end? What's the end you're trying to get?
Yeah.
There. So for me, it's discipline when I need to be, and then a bit more chilled when I.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've kind of just relaxed it a little bit, which has led to better performance. So, for example, I don't chase the green blocks on Training Peak anymore. Because if I want to take a little bit off my session, I take the session off.
Yeah.
But in the first year or so, it was strict. It was 6 a.m., not 6:01. But now I'm more flexible, and now I'm actually performing better. But I've gone through that hurdle where I needed to get those habits, build them. And now that I've kind of got them, I don't have to be harsh and hold them tight.
There's something to be said for fluidity in performance. So, great example of this, when you come out of an academy when you're in an academy, they drill a lot of routine into you before games. So it'll be, if you want to be a top level rugby player, you need to make sure you have a good pre-match routine. You need to be nailing your nutrition, you need to be nailing your sleep, and they kind of help you build a routine. If you look at anyone trying to help you performance, they'll talk about routine. What I found throughout my career was the routine was fine, but if anything got mucked up, it would throw my mind off. So I would be like, oh my God, I actually didn't get 8 hours sleep. Am I going to be able to perform now? And then expectancy effects come in. And that book have you read The Expectation Effect?
No.
Fantastic book.
I should
It's
get it.
really, really good stuff. Very replicable as well.
Yeah.
But it's around the whole idea. Say, I'll put it in your terms as well as a endurance athlete. But say you take 2 groups of runners and you give them both only 5 hours sleep. Now, group A, you tell them, just so you know, if you only get 5 hours sleep, it's likely that you'll lose about 10% off your 5K time when you run it tomorrow. And then the other group, you don't tell. Now, when they go and run it, which group do you think runs faster?
The one you don't tell.
The one you don't tell, because the second they hit a block, when they hit that block, they go, oh, I'm not really running quick enough. I need to up it here so I can get up to my normal pace. Whereas this group hits the block and goes, they said this was happening because of my sleep, and they come off. Expectations effects are very strong. So I figured out that my routine was basically constricting my performance and made me quite fragile. Whereas when I was like, I'm going to keep this down to a complete minimum and focus purely on the mood that I need. And for me, it was relaxed and confident. For some people, it was focused and aggressive. But you need to understand what that mood is for you. And if I was too rigid, I was vulnerable as opposed to being prepared.
Yeah.
So the fluidity of the performance was the more relaxed I am, the more I can make decisions. And we talk about performance under pressure.
Yeah, I can relate there because when my HRV tanked before my full Ironman, I threw it off and I didn't put it on again. So this was 5 days before, when I saw it happening, I took it off.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I woke up on that day and that thing was low, I was already mentally out the game.
Yeah. And it's paralysis by analysis, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
my HRV's down. I know what that means.
And I ended up feeling so strong on the day because I just left it. And I'm telling you, it was because I took my watch off. Didn't look at the sleep score. Didn't worry about it. I just rocked up.
Yeah, endurance is a funny old beast, because I did this silly challenge in December where we'd run a K on the first December,
Every day,
2K
right.
on the second, third, and the goal was to get to 24. Anyway, got to 21, did 21, and then I'm not a runner, so I was like, I'm done with this. There were 16 of us, and there were 3 of us left. Jamie was one of them.
Yeah,
and he was just breezing along.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I realized, one day I'd be running 12K flying. Next day, could barely do a 6-minute pace. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Because I'm running every day. Some days I feel fantastic, some days I don't.
Yeah.
I was like,
muscles are fatigued, nutrition, massive. What are you putting in?
I just couldn't figure it out. Like, one day I'd be on fire and I'd be doing nothing differently. And it would just, so I just think there's an element of relaxation with performance that is quite valuable.
Yeah. Let's talk about working under pressure, performance under pressure. How does someone learn that? Because you talk about it a lot, having been a professional rugby player. You were experienced in performing under pressure.
Yeah.
Big rugby games, big stadiums, big crowd. How do we, and the people that you're talking to in terms of salesmen at work, learn how to work under pressure?
So performance under pressure is a fascinating thing. So I think it's basically the most crucial moments in your life, whether it's interviews, sales calls, best man speeches, whatever it is. They make or break you, and your ability to consistently perform under pressure is what makes a difference. One caveat on this is, if some people we perceive as being good performers under pressure, but they're not experiencing pressure, so they're just good performers.
Right.
So it's when you feel physical feelings of pressure, can you still perform? And that's something that I'll do quite a lot on. And I always do the first thing when I talk to a group about performance under pressure, and you say, hands up if you think you're a good performer under pressure. So if I'd say to you, do you think you're a good performer under pressure?
I think I've gotten better.
Right. So then I would say, okay, hands up, keep your hands up. You want to be a volunteer for my next thing? Say, a few hands go down. You go, straight away, we've lost our performance under pressure. But I'd say, right, Roscoe, I'm going to put you under pressure straight away. Let's see how you do. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Roscoe, sing me the chorus of any song.
The chorus of any song?
Yeah, go on.
You should let me love you. Let me be the one.
Very good. Very good. So is that the best singing you can do?
Probably.
You reckon? I reckon you got more in you.
I'm not a good singer.
But the interesting thing would, if you do it, so well done for doing it, first of all. But singing in front of a group, usually in front of a group, is horrifying.
Yeah.
But there's kind of the whole idea of being a good performer under pressure is a little bit of a myth, because in what context, under what pressure, and what style. So say you have, I'm going to try and break this down as quickly as I can, but there's probably 6 main profile or responses to pressure. You have your classic fight, flight, freeze. We all know them. But then you have people that you'd call like a frantic doer. So they just get really busy when pressure's on. They just need to do something. Then you have people that are apologizers and fixers. They get under pressure. I'm so sorry. And they apologize and apologize. And then you have the classic good performer. Those tend to be different responses. The main trick with it, though, is the source of pressure that comes to you. So you may be a fantastic performer in certain scenarios. The main 6 are these. You have time pressure. So if I put you under time pressure, how good of a performer are you? You may be fantastic.
I'd say good.
Often see people, military people, high-powered business people, very good under time pressure. But then we have emotional pressure. So that will be when you're under severe emotion, can you still operate? So you feel, and that can come from many different sources. Cognitive pressure. You get multiple different things coming at you at once, and you kind of, I myself used to be very bad under cognitive pressure. I need to close my laptop, too many emails.
Right.
Physical pressure. So you're probably good under that. Why? Because you have high exposure to it. Then the 2 big ones that I find interesting are identity pressure and social pressure. So those are our 6. Now, bear with me, because there are shades of grey in this, and we try and categorize them to make it easier. Pressure is kind of a general feeling. It's not like they can just be triggered by different things. So social pressure is a big one. And that is how other people perceive us. So you got cameras on, you can edit it. If we had a big crowd, there'd be a very different feeling, and you'd be thinking, can I do this here? What are they going to think of me? Social pressure, and then identity pressure.
Right.
Now, identity pressure is, what do I expect of myself? Who do I believe I am? And am I under pressure to be like that? I may think I'm honest, but I'm being put in a situation where it would be very beneficial for me to lie. That is identity pressure. Am I going to live up to who I want to be?
It's hard trying to establish who you are. Like to put that in black and white, like who am I?
How often do people ask that question, firstly? So what we have to look at as well is who are you and who aren't you under pressure? Because there's one person who's very calm, and then the second pressure comes on from any of those sources, they become very different.
Right.
So the big thing with that is to start understanding where you're most vulnerable and where you're good, and exposing yourself to that pressure as much as possible so you can start to mitigate it. So for example, we would be good under physical pressure. Why? Because we've had high exposure to it.
Yeah.
Rugby is all about put you under physical pressure and see how well you can think and operate. So now if I'm under physical pressure, I'm better than most other people. But cognitive pressure, I was definitely worse. Multiple pieces of information. So when it actually comes to the practicality, when I ask you to sing there and you pause for a second, now we spoke slightly about this before, so I'll bring it up again though. People with high IQ correlates very closely with something called working memory capacity.
Right.
Working memory capacity is our ability to hold multiple pieces of information in our brain at the same time. So it's like your mental work pad or your sort of brain power.
Right.
So how many pieces of information can you hold and retrieve? Now, higher IQ people will use that to solve problems.
Because they've just got a big storage.
They have an ability to hold lots of pieces of information and retrieve things from short-term memory very quickly.
Right.
Now, when you're under pressure, your working memory capacity gets compromised. So your main source of problem solving gets compromised.
Yeah.
So that's why we see people with slightly lower IQ. So we're talking between 115 and 125 IQ is where you're most vulnerable. 130 plus is where that's like top 2% IQ.
Elite, yeah.
You're either unbelievable under pressure or seriously bad because there's a really high variability. But that middle bit there is where you are most likely to use working memory capacity, which means it's most likely to be compromised. If you're lower, you use more heuristic decision making, a bit more impulsive, which is why you see people that aren't academically gifted, but you put them on a sports field and they are just someone completely different because they are able to access, they're not going to be as badly affected by pressure.
Right.
So a lot of performing under pressure is the ability to stay in the moment. For example, if you think of working memory capacity as 5 to 7 slots in your brain that you can hold a piece of information, when you're under pressure, you start to do something called self-monitoring. So this idea of, what are people thinking of me? Am I coming across well? So you give a speech, are people enjoying this? That very thought will take up maybe half your spots in working memory.
Right.
Which means your ability to think of what you need to say and recall information
slows down,
then gets reduced.
Right.
So that whole idea of staying in the moment, in the same way that you see a massively experienced golfer going for a 3-foot putt and they muck it up and they would make that 99 times out of 100. Why have they missed it? So again, quick tour of the brain here. I'm no neuroscientist, but a lot of the stuff that comes down to it. But essentially we have that working memory capacity, then we have procedural memory. Procedural or implicit memory is your really quick, fast memory. When you're learning a skill, you work in memory capacity. So I want to bring my club back, open the face as I come through, keep my head down. You're thinking about it. As you get more experience, that moves to procedural memory, which is very fast. So you don't think about it.
Right.
So when someone's taking a penalty or they're swinging a golf club, they should be using, or playing tennis, procedural memory.
Right.
Very quick. It knows exactly how many muscles to recruit. It's like that. But when you're under pressure, you want to use your working memory capacity. So you think about the movement and it interrupts that automatic quick movement. And so that's where the putt just slightly shifts a little bit differently. You don't quite swing through because you've interrupted it. So a lot of people who talk about performance under pressure in a sporting context will say about not thinking too much, staying out of your own way. But that can also be used in sales calls. That can also be used in interview questions, in giving a speech, being on a first date. All of these things is about utilizing your working memory capacity effectively. Done.
Right.
God, sorry, that was long.
No, that was super interesting. And I thought of so many things there. But if you look at what was recently and topical, Djokovic.
Yeah.
I mean, his mental performance is off the charts. And tennis players in general, like you say, because that was really interesting going through the golf swing, but I also thinking about the tennis, because they got to be, but they also have to think about where they're going to hit the next shot. So they've got a couple of split seconds. They got to watch the other player and then make the decision under that pressure.
Yeah.
Do they just gain that over years of experience? And like you say, they're pushing it to that part of the brain.
Well, you want to be ideally using that implicit procedural memory. You can set intentions, but then when it's time to go, you need to be not thinking too much about what you're doing. So
Right.
in between the points, it's about maintaining that focus. Some fantastic books on this, by the way. In a Game of Tennis by Tim Galway, very
Okay.
good in terms of anecdotal. But if you want to look at the deeper stuff, How to Perform Under Pressure by creative title by Henry Weisinger. That's his name. I always forget. Fantastic if anyone's interested in a read. But the thing with tennis, and one of the best things that you can take from this, is this idea of non-judgmental awareness of performance. And the idea of, I don't judge the outcome of something, I just note how it felt and what happened.
Right.
So if you watch Federer, a lot of the time, if you were just to get a camera on him and you looked at each point, you'd find it very hard most of the time to figure out if he won or lost a point.
Interesting.
Because he's not
showing emotion.
And the problem is when you get angry at yourself, and this is the whole point of the inner game of tennis, you have a self one and self two. When you say to yourself, Ross, you idiot, when you're playing, who's talking and who are they talking to? That's the self one and two. And what happens is your body hears it and starts to spiral, and it gets worse. And you see these performance spirals in
like
games,
curious.
And it gets worse and worse and worse. And in order to get out of that, you have to be non-judgmental. And you just, that went wrong. Okay, on to the next one.
But it's interesting because it's the other way as well, because Federer then wasn't celebrating the winning points either.
So there's an interesting point on this, and one of the good anecdotes would be, if I'm over, say I'm, for example, playing paddle, a bit of a recency bias to my stories here, but I'm playing paddle, and
I'd love to take you on a paddle course.
Please do. I'm always playing, so I'm very happy to. But you play a fantastic shot down the line and you're like, yes, that was unbelievable, you're celebrating away, and then you try and do it again and it doesn't quite go. You get annoyed at yourself because you've given yourself a goal for which to aim for. And another story from a tennis example would be, I think this guy, Tim Galway was giving a lesson to 6 women who were trying to master a right to left sort of cross-court shot.
Right.
And the whole point is, he says to them, I don't want you to worry about the outcome of the shot. I just want you to work on your foot movement and where you hit the ball. And they do it, and they've gone through it 3 times, maybe 18 shots, and every single shot is nailed cross court.
Right.
And he says, guys, look up, look how well you've nailed this. They all look up and they go, brilliant. They then go and do it again. Half of them go into the net, a quarter of them go to the left, because what he's done is given them a frame of which is good. And anything that isn't that is then not good. So the idea is non-judgmental awareness of performance keeps you steady, and it's the idea of neutral review. If you're over the top when you win, and it allows you to get complacent, but if you're down in the dumps, it avoids toxicity and blame. So again, this comes back to work I do with teams. When you review, if I was to sit in a team meeting for you at your company and I could tell whether you've had a good week or a bad week, it's a bad review. It should be purely focused on improvement, no matter what.
Right.
Because when it's a bad week, it's going to stop people pointing fingers and getting annoyed and reacting to the outcome. But equally, when you're good, you're not going to paper over cracks.
Right.
So the idea is non-judgmental awareness of performance. And that's what leads us to
improvement is the
consistent improvement. I don't care if that went well or not, because I can't control what they do, only how it felt and what I would do next time. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That is, I want to move on to another topic, the creative idea generation.
Yes.
And I want to talk about myself, because in combination with this, I want to talk about perfection over, almost like quantity over quality. I've forgotten the way that I worded it when I sent it to you. But 2 things, because I think I'm getting trapped. So if I'm looking at my performance, and I take the podcast, for example, I feel like my pursuit in perfection and success, being successful, is overriding, and I'm doing too many things and I'm spiraling in a circle. And talking about creative idea generation, that's slowing down because I'm too stuck in my thoughts and I'm not collecting it and putting a strategy in place. Very ADHD. It's all scattered like this. I need to do X, 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 and I'm working 24/7, but I feel like I'm just going in a circle.
Yeah. So when it comes to creative idea generation, there again, unfortunately, is a correlation. And again, correlation does not mean causation, but people with higher working memory capacities and higher IQ tend to be less creative. And the reason for that is they have a strong ability to focus on areas. And the whole theory by Edward de Bono is interesting here. So the idea is the more you know about a topic, the less you are able to get out of the constraints of that environment. So
Right.
because you're so familiar with it, you accept a lot of things as solid and immovable when they might not be. So the more you're invested in podcasts, for example, the more you accept that that's the way things have to be done. But someone with a lower working memory capacity has a higher propensity for different ideas to slip in, because their ability to hold focus, which is high working memory capacity, your ability to focus on certain things, prevents ideas slipping in.
Right.
So for you, the challenge is you need to get creative ideas. If what you're in is a creative rut, is that what you're saying, by the way?
Kind of. It's a creative rut where, no, it's more an idea generation. So like where to go, how to put a path together. I'm basically working week to week, trying to get everything done, get everything out, because I believe that like you have to post every week.
Oh,
You
right,
have
okay,
to.
yeah.
And so I'm getting stuck trying to do all of this, but then not actually getting anywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I even know that because I'm telling you about that, but I
Yeah.
can't change it. And one of the things you said in your podcast was you're taking a break, you're going to reassess, think about some cool things, and we're going to come back to you.
Yeah.
And the podcast did so much better because of that than trying to hit these markers all the time and kind of just getting lost at sea, but you're trying to hit your targets. Does that make sense? Because you can also put it into business.
Yeah, see, you and I are probably a good combination. You've probably got the cadence and the work rate,
Yeah.
whereas and then I'm very breezy with it all. So
Yeah.
The reason I would take time off isn't necessarily just because I thought that'd be the best thing to do. It's like I just don't know if I have the time to do all the things that maybe need to be done, and I don't really feel like I have something that's ready to be put out.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take the time off. And for me, idea generation tends to come again when I put myself in the right state of mind. So in that episode on mastering idea generation, it's all about allowing your brain to make long-term connections, long-range connections. So
Right.
the more you focus on something, the more you make short-term connections. So if I'm sitting at a laptop and trying to come up with something, it's short-term connections. It's very actually hard to come up with broader ideas and connect things that are unconnected. Then you go on a walk, and that brain state leads to longer range connections, and then things connect. It's like when you're doing a puzzle or like a Wordle or something like that, and you can't figure it out, and then you go for a walk and you come back and it comes straight away because the long range connections allow for that. So when it comes to idea generation, showers, walking without headphones,
I feel like
driving.
sometimes when I'm driving,
big time.
I think so much when I'm driving. People always ask me why I'm so quiet my whole life.
In the car?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, again, another trait of high IQ. So very good.
And sometimes I like
drift
want to
off,
write
yeah.
it down because I never remember it later. Some of the
Oh, yeah.
ideas that where I go.
And the trouble with that is you have to write it down in such detail
Yeah.
because you'll forget the train of thought. Like I've put my phone away. I've got a notes page. I would show it to you. It's so long of every piece of content I've ever wanted to make. It's just like you go through it, but otherwise you just forget. And it goes like that. You cannot pull it back.
Well, that's sort of the stuff that I'm struggling with, is taking those notes of content and having the time, sitting down and executing it properly rather than rushing it and unexecuting it. And then I feel like the listener it's a negative for them. It's a net negative.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So we briefly spoke about it. It's like, would your appraisal of how you've been doing be different if you'd had different outcomes? Because I look at what you've done, and it looks like you've done everything pretty well. But because you haven't got the result you necessarily want, you're looking at it with a very critical eye. Had you got the results, you might be saying, well, it's because I did all of these things and it was very clever and all this, but which is quite outcome. So if we even bring it back and go neutral appraisal of performance, if I didn't tell you what any of your stuff had done, how would you be thinking about your content and everything? I would say you'd be quite happy. The amount you've had, the amount of conversations you've had, all of these things are things you'd want to have done. There's probably tweaks, but who hasn't got tweaks they can make? So maybe for you, it's relaxing yourself a little bit and just saying, no.
Well, maybe that shows how the market is in terms of relating yourself to other people. And because we're constantly being shown the 1% of the world, the high performers, you're always relating yourself against them. And that might be the reason why.
Yeah, and I think that's a topic you want to chat about. But you know, why is some people doing well and some people not on social media?
That why often sits with me. Yeah.
Yeah, um, I'm certainly not a guru on social media. My feeling was the more I learnt about how you should post, the more I would end up looking like everyone else's stuff. So I have literally one metric for content. Like for me to make content, if anyone can go and have a look at my content.
I loved what you said. If that's what you're going to say, when they zig, you zag.
Yeah. So my whole idea was if they're zigging, I'm zagging. Not necessarily. I don't want to be like contrarian with it. Like, oh, I'm look how different I am.
Yeah.
But the whole idea was, if you look at my content, the production quality is pretty rubbish. The editing is pretty rubbish. The captions are pretty rubbish.
But it's
All the
always
things you're
interesting.
told. So my metric is, do I find it massively interesting? Not do I think, do other people find it interesting? Do I personally find this fact fascinating? And
Yeah.
if I read something and go, that was really interesting, it's down and I'm building it into
Because it
something.
actually seems quite easy if you think about it like that. You
Yeah.
read something interesting, you share it.
That for me was it, because it meant because that's also a factor that I'm in complete control over. I don't have to worry about whether people will find it interesting. If I find it interesting, people who are like me will also find it interesting. And that was it. That was kind of the only metric I would have. And any time I've gone away from that, I've had less success. But again, that's not something I'd try. It's hard not to focus on it. It's rewarding itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get something that goes a bit viral, you're like, oh, there we go. Knew it. But you didn't. Actually, I guarantee you didn't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a pat on the back for old Ross, but it
Yeah.
wasn't really like that. So that's how I measure it, and then trying to not worry about the stuff that everyone else is worrying about, because then you look.
Well, it's such a toxic world. And I had a podcast last week and we spoke about Instagram in its totality. And it's such a toxic environment because Instagram's pushing that 1% towards you. So you're always relating yourself to these people that are making it. But then, you know, and then you force yourself being on your phone for 2 to 3 hours a day, which is crazy.
Yeah.
On Instagram, trying to impress other people. And I talk about this a lot because I'm making such great connections and people on Instagram, but none of those people are coming to my wedding.
Yeah.
And I'm giving up time with those people to make this work. Does that make sense? So I'll work on the podcast for 2 to 3 hours on a Thursday night instead of going to spend time with people close to you.
Yeah. Well, I guess why do you want the podcast to do well?
Good question. Because ultimately I think it could lead to having that freedom and living with a purpose.
Yeah. Is it so? I probably, if I'm being really honest, why do I have the podcast and why am I doing the personal branding stuff? I could probably tell you that it's around giving value and giving opportunity for great stories, but you cannot get away from the fact that building a personal brand has a huge element of ego and probably a dash of insecurity on there as well.
Yeah.
So when you're in that game, it's quite hard to figure out why you're actually doing it. And you suddenly go, there's a reason I'm saying that I'm doing it, but actually I feel really hurt when something doesn't do well. That's ego, I think. I want this validation externally. And that's what social media is, isn't it? And whether this is a rabbit hole worth going down, I don't know. But Gerd Gigerenzer is an interesting guy who wrote a book called Risk Savvy. It's worth a read.
Okay.
He spoke about why. Have you seen that longitudinal study of happiness from, I can't remember whether they did it. Oh, that'll annoy me. It's somewhere in America, the longitudinal study of happiness over years. People rate themselves and all these things around anxiety and irritability and all these things. Over time, since about the 1940s, it's been going down consistently. And I think they stopped it in 2007. So I would imagine since then it's gone even further down.
Yeah.
But Gigerenzer had an idea that the reason it's been going down consistently is because capitalism, and I'm not an anti-capitalist, by the way, neither is he, but his idea was the more capitalist society becomes, the more your locus of control moves outside of you and to the world. So you're judged on, the brands you wear and the way you look and all this sort of stuff and the job you have and all these things, and that externally validated. Whereas before that, there was a lot more like the skills you have and the community around you, which is all very controllable. So the things that make us happy have moved further and further outside of our control, which leads to a massive rise in mental health, anxiety, irritability, because your happiness depends on something you don't have control over.
Right.
It's a classic link. And
Yeah.
now, since 2007, social media has gone even further up, and you have even more of a lack of control because you can't make someone like your stuff. And it's frustrating. You're annoyed. So I don't know. I sometimes worry when I'm doing stuff on social media that I care too much. Like, that didn't do well. Does that mean I'm not doing well? Like, so I'm always, I'm ever so slightly hesitant when I'm on it. Like, I need to figure out a way to. Hence the breaks.
Yeah,
so.
I would love a way to find, if I could move myself out of it, maybe have someone do it for me. 10 out of 10. And then if I'm not looking, I don't care.
Yeah.
I love this part of the podcast. I like to grow the network, speak to the people. I'm also growing my knowledge. That's what I love. Speaking to different people, understanding different cultures. So if I could just remove that, because it definitely gets you.
It's hard, isn't it? It's quite irrefutable. It's a feeling.
And there's nothing, you can't say that you don't care. Name one person that doesn't.
There's a reason everyone's on doing it. There's something enjoyable about creating that personal brand and sharing something and people liking it. There's something that gratifies there and it feels good. So I think you have to just be aware of the problems that can come with that.
So what would success look like for you in your life?
Great question. So one thing I love is wildlife. Like,
interesting.
Love wildlife.
Okay.
Was tempted to go into it after I finished rugby.
Right.
But as we said at the top of the podcast, I felt if I did that, I'd end up hating it.
Right.
Because it feels like more of a passion.
Yeah.
And I thought if I'm reliant on that for money, I'll end up disliking it. But my dream would be building my own house, rewilding a big bunch of land, spending time in nature, but also being able to go and do talks.
I feel like you've got a purpose behind that. Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. I do enjoy working with teams. There's something like being with a team and seeing them get better that I really enjoy. And then, as long as I've never been too money motivated, I want enough where I don't have to worry, and that's kind of it.
Me too.
And then it's just about doing stuff that I like. So wildlife,
paddle,
family, paddle. Indoor at this time of year. But I was just thinking about that. As a man from South Africa, this weather must be absolutely destroying you.
Yeah, like I told you earlier, getting up to go for a run this morning was probably one of the hardest things to do, and I'm someone that comes easy to now.
Yeah.
But there's a different light in London. London lights itself up in the dark, which is something you don't see anywhere else in the world. So while I'm in my honeymoon stage, I'm still happy. But I do think that'll eventually fade, and I now understand why people move to Australia and South Africa for the sun. I mean, I live in a place in Franschhoek, my parents do, where there's so many swallows. I mean, that's people coming from Europe and the UK. They follow the summer. If you've got enough money, the rand is super weak. You can have a great life in South Africa.
I was seeing a guy I used to play rugby against called Joe Peterson.
Yeah, okay.
He's got a South African Springbok cap, actually.
Okay.
But he runs a rhino conservation charity.
Okay.
So I went down with him and we dehorned 3 rhinos.
Yeah.
Apparently it's a bit controversial. He was like, look, they are getting killed at such a fast rate that it's the only way to protect them. But got to have a little look at that. He's just started rewilding. He's bought a massive part of the Kruger, and all the fences were broken, loads of poachers traps everywhere. So he's been doing it all up. So a little shout out for Joe Peterson. Been going to see him, but bought this massive swathe of land and is now doing it up. And I was like, what a dream life.
Amazing.
And he loves it. He has his son and his wife, and they do it up, and he lives his passion every day. And I always think, like, that's a man that's not too stressed about things that I'm stressed about. So
100%.
if I can move myself toward that for me has been like you see people who make it and make lots of money and get everything that they think will be successful. The classic Jim Carrey thing, like, I wish you could achieve everything you want, because then you'd realize it's not it. I've always had in the back of my mind that once I get that, I then know what I'm going to do. And that is going to be the wildlife, living with nature, doing stuff like that. So broad strokes, that's what I'd like to do.
I've been quite lucky because I look at my parents and they live the life. So they live in Pearl Valley, which is a Gulf estate in Franschhoek, the winery. Okay. So they got the mountains surrounding them.
Where is this, like Stellenbosch? Or is this, okay.
Franschhoek, Paarl, Stellenbosch.
Oh, Paarl.
Yeah.
I've been to the Paarl Derby.
Okay.
What an occasion.
It's
like 30,000 and planes flying.
Yeah. Schoolboy rugby.
Unbelievable.
But mountain, my dad's background, still mountain bikes every day. Braai every night. Beer, food, good weather, nice place.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
That's the dream. Semi-retired.
Not getting the tube ever.
Oh, okay. So I want to play the game quickly, but before we do that, if you had one message to someone that was sort of searching for their passion or struggling to find motivation or inspiration in their life, what would your message be?
Um, I was actually thinking about this because I was trying to think of something that wasn't too generic or too specific. But one thing I think for me, and it may not be around your passion, but I was thinking things that I need to do. I have so many things that I plan to do, just not now. So I'll do it. I'll get to it. And whether that's going on a holiday somewhere, whether that's taking my girlfriend to a restaurant that I've had saved on Instagram, whether it's catching up with a friend. And there are so many of them I just don't do. And my piece of advice would be pick one of those things and just do it right now after the podcast. Maybe it lines up quite nicely with the name of the podcast, but pick one of those things you've been thinking about doing later on and just do it now. And quality of life might just pick up that little bit. And that was something I thought for myself as well. There are so many things I've got pinned, but just aren't going to get done. So no specific sort of performance advice, but just pick one of those things that you've had in the back of the mind and just go and get it done.
That's, like you said, it relates because we always say, stop waiting. What are you waiting for? Go do it.
And not even the big life change. I mean, obviously, if you can, great, but something small. You've been planning to go and see your mum and you haven't done it in a while. Just go see her.
That's a good one.
Send her a card. Something like that. Just do a nice thing that you've wanted to do for a while.
100%. Okay, let's play this game quickly.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so quite simple. I need you to rank these rugby players.
Oh, okay.
1 to 5 without knowing who's coming next.
Okay. Blind rank.
So you know the game.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to start off with Sasha Feinberg.
I'm going to go 4 because he's so
4.
He's so early on. I don't know if you've got historical players coming.
No, I should add these are young flair players that are coming onto the ranks.
Okay. And you've got a predominantly South African audience, have you? So I need to play this safe. Okay, so these are all young players.
Yeah, people that are
I
coming
thought
on.
you could be coming up with like Johnny Wilkinson.
Sorry. No. Yeah, no, these are young fire coming onto the.
Okay, I'll pump him up to 3 then.
I like
still don't know
We'll take 3. Okay, Marcus Smith.
He's going through a tough time at the moment, isn't he? 'Cause he's so good, but England can't seem to find a place for him. 4, but he could. Give it a year, he could be 2 or 1, couldn't he?
Eventually, I think if he gets some, yeah. Right, Prendergast. Sam.
Okay, 5.
Okay, fair. Yeah, my Irish mate says he can't tackle. Wallace Satiti.
Oh, so I guess he has to go 2 then. I guess.
So you've left number 1. I think you're gonna like number 1.
Who's number 1?
Henry Pollock.
Chuck him up there. I tell you what, people could learn a lot from Henry Pollock.
Yeah.
For performance under pressure, that man, and the amount of crap he gets. But these are all players that are so much better than I ever was. So yeah.
I think it's an exciting time for rugby. That's why I chose the sort of up and coming fire players at the moment. Because I mean, Sasha's just on another level.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff he
does. In terms
of
someone at his age, and you talk about leadership, you talk about performing under pressure, talk about how he's taken control of the locker room at that age and things like that. I mean, it's just
that South African team's an interesting
talk about mental performance
case study. So stuff that Rassie does and all that. I'd love to go and actually see what happens on the inside. Obviously, you've got the great documentaries that they have, which is a great insight. But I'd love to know what the inside scoop is there as well with Rassie and what's the other guy's name?
I think they work a lot on community culture, mental performance, and they really take South Africa as a nation and really implement it in the players. Because if you look at someone like Malcolm Marx, he was the number 2 hooker for 2 years. He was then now the greatest player on the field for the year in global rugby.
Yeah.
How do you keep him mentally so in check to have him on the bench for so long?
Yeah, I don't know. He seems to have a master with all that.
So it's incredible.
Well, I say South African coaches seem to do very well over here as well. I mean, one of the best I've ever seen over here is Brendan Venter. He was. Have you come across Brendan Venter before?
Mm-hmm.
So he was. I think he's played for the Springboks, but he was a player at London Irish.
Okay.
and he was coach at Saracens when they had their revolution, and he's now just come back.
Right.
And he's a fantastic coach. The way he talks about the team and gets you motivated for a training session, all this sort of stuff, he was brilliant.
Right.
And you see a bit similar in Rassi as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to quickly tell the people where they can find you, your podcast?
Yeah, a podcast called Human Alchemy. It's all about how people go from pretty ordinary stuff to achieving amazing things. And they come out whenever I do one, and then just Ross Neal on Instagram or YouTube for my ramblings. Yeah,
and his LinkedIn, super interesting
and
stuff
LinkedIn,
for work.
We'll be doing more on LinkedIn over the next few months. Kind of gone off it a little bit. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Mate, pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. All good.